Hey everybody, this is Marks here. It's been a while since I made a video, but I thought I would show you guys a newer game that I've got, Unconditional Surrender, World War II in Europe. I think I'm playing through this right now, and I think it's fast becoming my top favorite game. I was looking forward to this for a long time, and GMT happened to reprint it this year. So I pre-ordered it, I guess. I don't know what happened exactly. I don't remember. But anyway, I pre-ordered it and I did get the deluxe mounted map to go with. So everything is just gorgeous. I'll kind of quickly go through what comes in the game here. A couple rule books. Well, a playbook and a rule book. And the rule book is, I think it's around 54, 55, 56 pages here. And it's laid out in typical GMT fashion, very easy to read and understand. This game was really pick up and play so far that I've seen with the person I'm playing with. I'm actually playing versus someone for once, but I don't think I'll be doing a playthrough video of this. I might just do action reports or whatever they're called, just progress reports. Probably give you guys one of those at the end of this, but just a quick overview of what comes with. Nice playbook, tons of scenarios come with the game. One of my favorite things about this game is its sandbox nature. I'm doing quotes over here. You're not limited by what choices you can make in this game. It's very open-ended. When we get to the map and the counters, I'll show you kind of what my strategy was and where we are at with the World War II. Here's kind of like just a shot of most of the counters. The game is awesome too. Like I said about the sandbox nature, all of these ones with the yellow triangles are what-if scenarios. So in the book game, or the book scenarios, these yellow triangle units aren't used. Well, these are markers, but that's something else entirely. But not used, but you can basically set up your own scenarios. You can say, oh, look, the Russians had an extra ground support. Oh, they had, a more developed train transport system, so they get an extra strategic move return. And that's the Soviet faction, but I mean, you've got extra counters for the Axis faction and the Western faction. So anyway, lots of counters going on here, and I clipped everything, something I've never done with my war games before, but I clipped absolutely every counter that came with the game, something like almost 900 or something. It took a few days of, a few hours a day or something. But I think it's worth it. This game totally blowing my mind about how fun it is and engaging it is. And yeah. Anyway, here is one thing. I mean, I'm never a fan of having stuff in baggies, but there's so many smaller countries and their individual units for each country that you kind of have to, you're forced into it. I mean, I could buy another counter tray and probably do another 2 counter trays full of, individual country in each cell or whatever, but with the box is just your standard GMT size. Soon I won't be able to fit anything in the box again, right? And I've got a few GMTs that are already overflowing with stuff. Genesis, I'm looking at you. But, Labyrinth, I don't know what to do with that anyway. Anyway, hear me ranting away as usual. I did buy some upgraded dice. I mean, it came with some regular dice, but the GMT dice lately that's been coming with, I haven't been too ecstatic about. They're light and cheap, they feel like, but I upgraded some dice. So one for the Axis, one for the Soviet, and one for the Western faction here. And then these are the weather dice, cold zone, medium zone, or whatever it's called, mild zone, and warm zone. This color is kind of weird. It should be more yellow, but it's kind of like a cheddar. That's what they told me. But it's yellowish enough to for message received. So anyway, the other thing I want to show you quickly from this angle is some of the player aids that come with. Now this is just kind of a operational flow chart of the operations phase of the turn here. That is here. And then the rest of the sequence of play of turn. I mean, it looks complicated. I don't know, everybody, I'm sure wargamers understand what kinds of complexities you can have in wargames. This one I don't find complex at all. It was pick up, read, and play. Did a couple training scenarios, picked it up very quickly. And the person I'm playing with, very quick. I mean, he didn't read the rules, but it's very easy to grasp and get through what kind of decisions you can make. So really having a lot of fun so far. Anyway, yeah, your basic sequence of play flow chart, and then here is kind of where most of the information about a lot of stuff in the game is this two-page booklet thingy here, sheet, but here all combat is resolved in this page. I mean, it looks complicated, but here's the ground combat table, or the dice roll modifiers. And I mean, the gameplay is pretty simple. You've got the attacker, oh jeez, come here you. Attacker here and the defender here. You roll both dice, you add modifiers, and then you consult the table and figure out what the effect is. And I mean, it's so simple and intuitive that this looks bad, but man, you remember everything after 4 or 5 attacks. So pretty cool. Anyway, all the every part of the game is managed with this specific table. So you've got strategic combat, you've got air and naval combat over here. So it's beautiful. I love how simple it is, and it's making it a lot more fun. Anyway, you've got production costs over here. You've got conditional event triggers. Conditional events is one of the more fiddly things I'm finding, but again, after a few read-throughs and after a while, you just get it. Oh, okay, this is going to happen now because this happens, right? And that's essentially what this is A, B happens, so C happens. And then C, as a result of C, all this stuff happens, right? And it's all very clearly laid out in the book. And you don't really need to consult it until you need to. So it's not like you have to have all this memorized anyway, right? Okay, movement costs over here. And then national will. So this is kind of a game about depleting your enemy's national will in order for them to surrender or be conquered. And again, everything's right here. It's very simple to understand. And, even the person I'm playing with, having not read the rules, having not even probably looked at this chart, probably already understand fully enough what effects certain things are going to happen. So, wow, I ranted away a lot on that. So let's have a look at a few of the things. All right, so over here we have got a look at what is a Consolidated Faction card. Now, in the game, comes with each faction gets their own card, but I mean, you can see how quickly that's going to take up space. If there's 3 factions, 3 cards this size, well, now we can have all the factions, every one of their counters tracked here on this one sheet. So it's nice for saving space, especially if you're doing mostly solo, or versus one player. I mean, it's very safe space saving. All right. Anyway, what we got on these cards is when a unit gets eliminated, it gets up here, and then next turn it comes up to here, and then that turn you can remobilize them. More or less that's what happens with units that are eliminated. I really like games where it's not a annihilation policy. Troops can come back. They come back weaker sometimes, except for the Soviets. They got a huge advantage when it comes to spawning in units. Anyway, no, not going to get into super details about that, but so far this is the conquered countries of the Axis. They've taken over Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Greece, and Romania. Which is the Balkan area, I think is what it's called. But you'll notice Yugoslavia is not on there because Yugoslavia actually joined the Axis. And we'll go, when we go to the map, I'll show you what kind of is going on over there. I'm excited just looking at it. Oh my god. Anyway, here are events that you can use turn by turn. It's a really cool system. There's no submarine marker that gets put on the map, you get this submarine token that you use, and then it comes back several months later, depending on the die roll, right? So, I mean, it's a cool little mechanic or mechanism where, you know, your budget for submarines are used up. They're going to come back. You don't know when. You're not quite sure, but that's how it works. And it's the same with, well, it's a little bit different with the surface action and the surprise attacks here, but the ground supports work like that as well. Oops, I hate when I do that. Anyway, you can see that all factions have some cool tokens or events that they can use turn by turn. Mostly it's for combat. There are some things, the Russians don't have any right now. I shouldn't say Russians, the Soviet faction. They don't have any partisans right now, but partisans can be used in strategic warfare. That's something that we haven't really gotten into yet because, well, I'll explain when we get to the map. But and then we've had all these areas ceded to the Soviet Union, Latvia, Estonia, Eastern Poland, and Bessarabia. And it looks like the Polish corridor has been ceded to the Axis faction after the invasion of Poland in 1939. Anyway, let's, I'll go show you what's up here. Alright, here we have another tracking sheet where we're tracking production points, each faction's factories, and national will of each individual country as they are invaded slash, you know, start from the beginning or taken over via political influence, like Italy. Italy joined the Axis via some political finagling that the Axis managed to complete on Italy. So, I mean, I don't want to get into the exact mechanisms of the game, really. I want to just hurry up so I can show you what's going on the map. Anywho, yeah, national will, everything's tracked here for all countries. Like I said, this is a consolidated sheet. The game also comes with each individual factions, but I'm tracking all three factions all on one sheet, just to save space. So, alright, and yeah, let's start having a look at the map and seeing what we got over there. Alright, here we got a shot of the turn track, and I mean, each one of those months is an individual turn that you can go through. And also the weather conditions chart. The weather plays a big part of the strategy in this game, which is very cool, and it's very easy to understand and go through. Again, everything goes to dice modifiers, more or less. There's not a lot for movement. Oh man, look what I'm doing. So weird. There's not a lot for movement effects when it comes to weather. It mostly affects combat. Anyway, here we are. We're in August 1940 here. And so we did start in September 1939. So it's almost been 1 year of play. It'll be the 11th turn that we go into. And there's a little bit of departure from the history of World War II. Me, as the Axis, I decided to go with the invasion of Russia first. And I'll show you that here. But, I mean, what you got is you've got tokens and units that come out via specific dates, months and turns. So, I mean, some of them won't come out for a long time. Looks like the Soviets got some stuff coming up, and the French, and as well as the Axis faction. And then, you know, over in January 1941, it looks like a big stack of stuff that's all going to be coming out that month. It doesn't quite come out as fast as you think. It goes to your mobilization box, and then you mobilize it to the map at half strength, and then you need to spend further production points to upgrade them to full strength, if they are a double-sided unit. But same with air units or navies. You've got to bring them in at reduced. The game uses sorties, where you track how much usage each air unit or naval unit has used. And anyway, they come in with sorties on them so that you have to spend production in order to get them back up to full flying availability. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's an abstraction of what's going on with reality anyway. But it's just one of those neat little abstractions that it makes perfect sense and it's easily playable. So very cool, very cool. All right, let's have a look at France here. All right, here is a shot of the situation in France. Like I said, it is 1940 in August, and the Axis elected not to invade France at this point, or declare war on the entire Western faction, is kind of how it works mechanically in the game. But anyway, yeah, so we've got not much of a stalemate, but we do have a large massing of troops on both sides of the border. And Netherlands and Belgium have not been activated as countries yet. That's why you don't see any units in them. But that would happen if the Axis were to declare war on them, or they join either side through diplomatic means. So. And you've got a shot of the south of England where you've got a couple fleets hanging out, and the 1st Royal Air Force Wing that's been called upon for a few things, probably to move, I think. I can't remember. Oh, no, they got spawned there, and then they had to build up. Anywho, and yeah, we got a British Expeditionary Force holed up in Dijon. Kind of, the Western faction's just been kind of hanging around, waiting for some action. But we'll head further south into Italy and show you what is happening with the Italians and the French and the English. We'll see what we can get in the shot. All right, here we're looking at northern Italy. We got a full-strength Italian ground unit. Well, that would be an infantry army. And then we've got a lesser-strength garrison just holed up on the border there. And you've got a full-strength French unit in the Alps, Southern Alps, watching the border. Tensions rising in the Mediterranean for sure. Also, we got a fleet or flotilla or whatever the heck you call it. One French fleet hanging out in Marseille. Here we are in Gibraltar here. We've got a convoy and a carrier unit, which is basically a mobile air unit that can hole up in any friendly port. Very handy to use. They haven't been too active just because there isn't actually war between the Axis and the Western faction just yet. I don't think the Axis can handle a two-front war this early. I kind of wanted to do it and just totally overextend the Axis forces and see how that played out, but you never know. I might still do it. It's still early, and just to do something dumb. But we'll see how the invasion of Russia goes, and then we'll decide. I'm going to just flip over and show you this diplomacy area and explain a little bit about that. Alright, so here is what is called the Diplomacy Cup marker holding box. Now, basically, all of these tokens were in the Diplomacy Cup. Here's what the cup looks like. Something I got from the dollar store. Nice little containers from Dollarama. You got 12 for like $1.25. It was a sweet deal. Anyway, diplomacy is really kind of cool in this game. There's no direct interaction with other players. It's all pulling markers from this cup, or putting these markers back in the cup. That's essentially all you can do on your diplomacy phase for each of the three factions. So, also there's other ways to get stuff into the cup via taking over countries or, a political failure. I mean, it's hard to explain just by looking at this, but it's all manipulation of these counters or these markers and this cup, and moving in and taking out markers, hoping that you pull, a pro-faction marker of yourself, and you can start to sway a neutral country to join you. Like, currently Sweden is pro-Axis, so if I were to draw a political success marker on the Axis turn, then I could apply it to Sweden, and they would activate as an ally of the Axis, and I get to, activate all their forces and deploy them however I feel like as the Axis. So, or let's say the Soviet faction draws the political success, they could remove that pro-Axis marker from Sweden, thereby negating it. So all this kind of up and down, and it's a little random, but also you have control of what's in this cup. Everybody has control of what's in there. And one of the things I'm noticing is that politically the Axis has an advantage because they get to draw first out of this cup. So if the Soviets and the Western faction want to put some political successes in there, well, they're not going to get a chance to touch them before the Axis gets a chance. So I don't know if it's unbalanced because for the amount of units and the advantages that will come out for the Western and the Soviet factions over time. I mean, it's not instant, but I mean the Americans enter the game, and that's a huge force that can deploy anywhere where there's a Western faction or a Soviet faction. They might. I don't know exactly what the ruling is on that. I'm pretty sure they would join the Western faction, and that's triggered on whether or not each faction is at war with the Axis or not, right? So, and also there's kind of a timer, once you declare war on one faction, you can't just, decide not to declare war on the other faction for the rest of the game. No, there's a timer of how much time you have left, and then it's a D6 roll every turn until, the Western faction declares war on the Axis. Listen to me rant away, wow. I'm very, very passionate about this game. I really love this game. Anyway, let's have a look at, say, the other end of the Mediterranean, and I'll show you the situation over there. Alright, so here is the Eastern Mediterranean. Here's Tobruk here with the Italian army protecting in the fort there. We've got some British troops here. The British have a wicked navy, but they don't have a lot of troops to actually throw around. But they got a couple garrisons over here in Palestine, as well as the French. When Italy activated as a country for the Axis, there was an event called the Mediterranean Crisis, and that triggered the activation of these units. Turkey over here is allied with the Western faction, and they managed to pull that off through diplomacy, and there's quite a decent army there, but so far the Western faction's been sitting on their hands waiting for their chance to enter the conflict and put an end to the Axis maniacal takeovers of Europe. Let's go to the Balkans. I'll show you what's going on over there. Alright, here we have a look at the Balkans. Greece has been overthrown by the Axis, as well as Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary up here. Yugoslavia actually joined the Axis through some diplomatic maneuvering by the Axis. And the takeover of Bulgaria and Greece was rather fast. The Italians took over Greece. This was last month or 2 months ago, maybe June 1940. And Yugoslavia swept through Bulgaria, and now they're on a northeasterly march into Russia. I've got some Italian units over here that I made a mistake last turn. It's something I missed. They're actually out of supply. They don't have a solid supply line, and you can't have supply lines running through friendly countries unless you're Germany. Germany, they can be in any country and have supply lines anywhere they want, but Italy can't have their supply lines running through Yugoslavia, and they cannot have their units in Yugoslavia. So having this tiny little corridor between Greece and Bulgaria for the Italians to go through, and no transport lines, those two units are actually out of supply. And way up here in the corner, if you can see that is an Italian air unit that I flew all the way from the Alps there in order to, way over here you can just see it, in order to join the Eastern Front, but that's technically illegal. They are out of supply. So I think what I'll do is probably just play through and go through their no or low supply effects as we get into the next turn. This guy's okay. He's supplied by, there's a factory in Athens, and there's a factory in, what is that, Gerazo? Yeah, and as well there's a convoy here which can also supply units, but each of those factories supply two units, I think. I mean, I could be wrong about the Athens factory. because it's not technically, it's a conquered country, so are we allowed to use that factory? I don't know. I'd have to look that up. That's kind of the way I've been playing it, though, is that Italy gets access to those two factories. Well, anyone really, but it's the Italians that need the supply on this side of the ocean here. Over here, if they had a supply line running through Yugoslavia that they were allowed to use, they'd have no problems. But anyway, I'm gonna go and zoom up into here, and then we can show you kind of the situation of the invasion of southern Russia, I guess, or I guess it'd be southwestern Russia. Soviet Union, sorry. Alright, so here is the situation, what it looks like currently in Bessarabia, or around there. Last turn, the Germans did kind of smash through this part. The Soviets did not have a very strong defensive line in the south, so I thought I saw an opportunity to cross into there with the two German Panzer units, especially because they are super powerful. And try and, well, I don't want to give away my strategy currently. Well, whatever. I'll show you. They're actually going to flank what's up here. You can't see it, but their mission is to flank. And then my idea was the Italian and the Yugoslavian. I don't think Yugoslavia is a word. This is an air unit, correct? Yeah. The Yugoslavians were supposed to kind of head this way, and so we have a split of forces. The Germans heading this way, and the Yugoslavians and the Italians heading this way. We'll see what I can do about supplying the Italians, but if they can't be supplied, they're going to have to maybe just garrison the Greek area and keep the southern Balkans protected from the eventual entry from the Western faction. And who knows, maybe I'll declare war on the Western faction soon enough and start doing some crap in the Mediterranean. So I haven't decided that. As far as the next few months is concerned, I wanted to get the good weather in while the getting's good, and get into Russia before the weather turns bad, because the weather's going to turn bad over winter in Russia, and that's going to dramatically affect our fighting effectiveness. It's going to affect all factions, and it's dependent on the zones too. Like you can see this dotted line here, that is the border of the cold zone. So everything north of here is the cold zone, and then here we have the mild zone. So I mean, you could have different weather, but most of Russia is in the cold zone, and for the most part, it's going to be poor or severe weather, especially over the winter months. So just kind of like historically, but I mean realistically as well, that's how it works. Weather is not good for logistics, and a fighting force, are going to have a hard time pushing forward. But anyway, we'll see, how far we can get these guys up the next couple turns. Like, it's August this month, so we got guaranteed fair weather for August, and then I think in September as well. So we got essentially 2 more months that we can advance into Russia. The Russians did get to mobilize a lot of emergency units with the invasion. So it looked easy at first, but all over here, I don't want to move the camera while I'm recording, but I mean, I think there was 5 units that spawned immediately and an air unit that all came out for free. So that was quite an advantage for the Soviets. But the problem with that is that they were scattered. They were scattered all back in the line, so they couldn't necessarily stop their borders from collapsing. But the dude I'm playing with, he saw that, and he said he actually started to withdraw his troops to the east. So I thought, well, that's an interesting strategy. I probably would have rushed forward as fast as I could, but he's playing a little differently than I did, so that's cool. Yeah, so let's go look at the eastern and central Poland. What's the situation that's going on there? Because we've got a large German force there, and let's have a look. All right, so here's what it looks like into central Poland, and the Soviet line here held pretty tightly during the assault last turn. But like I said, my plan was to flank them with this force here and head up this way with this force, and you know, shoot off east once I get up here. Don't tell the other player that, but that's kind of my plan. And also, the Axis faction does have pro-Axis Lithuania here, so they could be swayed to join the Axis at this point before the Soviets take over this. They concede these territories and just Lithuania ceases to exist. It's already happened with Latvia and Estonia. They are completely Soviet controlled now. They got annexed, so to speak. Anyway, if we can get an extra unit or two because of Lithuania's forces, why not? But we'll think about that, because like I said, we had up in Sweden, we've also got Sweden's pro-Axis as well, so I don't know, diplomatically maybe, but I mean, now that we've got a full war going on, it's a lot more expensive to oh, you can see that shadow. Yeah, get that out of there. It's a lot more expensive, the turns are now, with especially, you've got to pay for each unit to activate, so that can rack up a lot of money. And as well, the Yugoslavians, they don't have a large industrial base, so the Germans have to send them production points every turn in order for the Yugoslav army to actually activate. So war is not cheap. Anyway, so it's kind of a shot too of the rear Soviet line where most of those emergency units spawned last month. You can only mobilize in cities that you control. At least I'm 99% sure about that. Maybe I misinterpreted that rule, but that's how we've been playing it anyway. And yeah, you can see how the other player started to fall back somewhat. You can't. Can you see those? No, there's two over here in Dnepropetrovsk. I hope I said that 50% correct. That's a hard one. Oh boy, never mind. Dnepropetrovsk. Okay. Yeah, most of them are in this line. I'll just kind of throw it here. There's nothing on the right side or to the east of this line here. Actually, more like that. But you just can't see. It's a little bit off camera. Not too far from the Yugoslav army over here, like 5 or 6 hexes to the east. Anyway, yeah, so hopefully that plan works well. Those German tanks are super strong, and as well we've got a couple German aircraft wings here to support that, and that's the plan I'm going with, and I'm sticking to it. Hopefully we can get a few good turns, months in before winter, like I said, and before the attack is gonna inevitably stall. I don't know if depending on the weather, I might just say, you know, we're not moving. You can try and attack us, and you're gonna suffer as much as we are, but we're not gonna push forward until the weather is better. So we'll just see about that. Yeah, I think that's everything. I think I've showed everything. I'm not going to do playthroughs on this particular game that we're playing right now. Just because I'm playing opposed, and you know, I just wanted to show, you know, what's going on situationally. And I mean, I did end up ranting a lot in this video. I talked a lot, but I think it's just how excited I am to actually have this game in my possession and have it on the table to be playing. It's so cool. It's rocketing up there to one of my favorite games ever. So, yeah. I think from here on in, if there's going to be more videos on this, it's going to be just you know, action reports showing, you know, here, hey, look, it's October 1940. This is the situation in Russia or Turkey or what have you, and I'll try to keep everybody who's interested appraised of what's going on in my run through of World War II here in Unconditional Surrender. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Yeah, it's been a while since I've put a video out. I don't even recall. Been sort of busy, so anyway. And I've, you know, there's been a lot going on with my gaming as well. That I didn't. I guess I just took a sabbatical from videos and got back to just playing. But Anyway, from now on, yeah, let's be a little more action reports. Yeah. Wow. I don't even, my brain is just too excited right now looking at this. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been Marks, and hopefully you will come back and check out more of Unconditional Surrender. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.